I followed the money, I found that it took me up the levels of a pyramid. Here we are at the bottom level going about our daily lives.
Everybody here got the extraterrestrials.
Above us is government.
And secrets
People who are
others
given a
won't know,
monopoly
like
on
the time
force
machine.
and use it to tax and control us whether or not we agree. But who controls them? At the next level are the corporations. Many would say that it is now corporations and not nation states that rule the world. They call it a corporatocracy. To acquire the world's resources and control the markets, this corporatocracy must have access to cheap money. The big corporations get their loans at special rates from the big banks, which means that those who control the major banks, the moneyed elite, ultimately control the corporations. As I followed the money,
Everybody
I've learned that
here
almost
got the
everything I once
extraterrestrials.
believed about
And
money
secrets
is
others
simply
won't
not
know,
true.
like the
I
time
followed the
machine.
money, I found that it took me up the levels of a pyramid. Here we are at the bottom level going about our daily lives. Above us is government. People who are given a monopoly on
Everybody
force
here got the
and use it to
extraterrestrials.
tax and control us
And
whether or not
secrets
we
others
agree.
won't know, like the time
But who
machine.
controls them? At the next level are the corporations. Many would say that it is now corporations and not nation states that rule the world. They call it a corporatocracy. To acquire the world's resources and control the markets, this corporatocracy must have access to cheap money. The big corporations get their loans at special rates from the big banks, which means that those who control the major banks, the moneyed elite, ultimately control the corporations. As I've followed the money, I've learned that almost everything I once believed about money is simply not true.
Everybody here
the
got
money.
the extra.
Hi, I'm Jamie and I work for Chegg Tutors. Today I want to talk to you about a concept in sociology that we know as social class. Now, we hear this thrown around a lot, but there's a very specific meaning when we study it formally. Social class commonly is a group of people of similar status, commonly sharing comparable levels of power and wealth. Now, those are some concepts that we think we know in every day, but we want to think more thoroughly through them. So, I want to clear up some things first. Social class is not income level. Especially with the growth of movements like Occupy Wall Street, we're used to hearing about now in America the 1%, the top 1% of earners who own much more of the wealth in the United States. This is not quite what we're talking about when we talk about social class. For example, 87% of Americans say they are middle class. So we're trained in this country not to think too much about class and really to think more that everyone is average. So class does look at wealth differences, but it also looks at lots of other things. We want to think about class more like what class might have looked like in your history class when we talked about ancient Egypt. We think about class in terms of groups of people in society who have similar functions. Maybe it's jobs, maybe it's family roles or roles in the community. They have similar functions and they have similar status. People think similarly of them, and they tend to interact with each other more. They tend also to be kind of ranked. So there's someone or a group of people who have higher status. They're thought of more highly. Maybe they have more power. And there's groups of people, normally many more people, who have lower status. So if we take a look at this pyramid and imagine that it is an ancient Egyptian pyramid, we see that slaves are at the bottom of the pyramid. They would have been a social class that are the biggest group of the biggest number of people in ancient Egypt. But they're at the bottom of the pyramid. They don't have any status at all. They don't even have their freedom. But they do perform a similar function. They do a lot of the labor, the hard labor, and they have a similar status. You might go up the ladder, and as you go up the ladder, a lot of things will change. Education level will change. People like scribes and above would be literate, whereas many people would not. Levels of power and influence in the government, in everyday society, in how you could bribe and influence people are going to change as well. But you'll notice also that as you go up the pyramid, the level of power and status increases, but the size decreases all the way up to the pharaoh, who is one person and one person only. So really, this is more the way you want to think about social class, even say if you're in the US, where we don't think about class so much. We still do have these differences in social status and not only in income level, but also in jobs that we do and what people think of those jobs. But we don't want to strictly think about class in terms of income level. And we also don't want to believe that we live in a society that no longer has classes. Going back to our definition, we still certainly have people of similar status who share comparable levels of power and wealth. More later, and thanks for watching.